Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new month, new pack, and obviously a new contender in a Master Duel here. Tenpai Dragon, as you can see from the wallpaper behind me, a very cool wallpaper, honestly. Tenpai Dragon is here, and we will answer the question, what are the top 5 decks that you can use this month and for the beginning of the next month until the release of the next pack to reach Master 1 with or to climb very high in the rating duels. My personal number 5 for this month is Voiceless Voice. You could definitely also mention Ritual Beast, but Ritual Beast is a deck that is very hard to play, so I think for the majority of people, Voiceless Voice will be the easier one. Just a quick little note, and this counts or is basically true for every deck that I will show you. Playing Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit right now in this current meta is quite nice, as this is a good counter to Tenpai Dragon. You can destroy the field spell, which is very important. Another thing that you can play in nearly every deck if you wanted to, especially because this is a budget option, is Dimensional Barrier, a very strong card that you can use going first. Tenpai Dragon will normally let you go first, and if you can then place your Dimensional Barrier called Synchro, then this costs your Tenpai Dragon opponent an entire turn and basically helps you win the game quite consistently. This also is a super rare, so if you are missing any staples, like for example an Imperm, if that should be the case, then you can just go ahead and put in the barriers here. Super rare, very strong in this current format, but I think Voiceless Voice is in quite of a good position here. You have a really nice Omni Negate that is also an activation negation. You can negate the activation. This is very important because most of the Tenpai monsters effects are activated during the damage step, at least the very important ones, and during the damage step you are not allowed to use an effect negation like an Ash Blossom, for example, which says negate the effect, but you can use activation negations, for example an Apollousa, Bow of the Goddess, as well as a Skull Guardian, which activates or negates the activation. Mentioning it, Ash Blossom is a very good hand trap against Tenpai, so you might want to hold out on your Ash Blossom Maxi, which is why I also think that Tenpai Dragon, Voiceless Voice is in a good position, because you don't really, or you aren't really hurt by Maxi that much, so you might not have to use your Ash Blossom on your opponent's Tenpai Dragon's opponent's Maxi. Just go into your Skull Guardian, give them one draw, and then normal summon your low, and you have your basic setup on the field, and then you can use your Ash Blossom or save your Ash Blossom for your Sengen or for your opponent's Sengen Kaiman for the field spell, for the Pydra. This is very effective. As I already said, you have this activation negation, which is very strong, and Omni Negate, which is very effective, and then also your barrier of the Voiceless Voice, which basically makes it so that your Tenpai Dragon opponent must attack into your big 40,100 boss monster. They need to clear it somehow, and they can obviously destroy it with the Kyo Belt, but then if they destroy it, you can just bring another one back with the players of the Voiceless Voice. So the Voiceless Voice, the average Voiceless Voice board is pretty hard to break for Tenpai. You also have your Radiance, which you have quite an easy access to, which can pop up to 2 cards on the field. This could be the field spell, very effective. Could be 2 Tenpai monsters in the main phase if they don't have the field spell, so that they basically can do nothing in the battle phase. You can also use this, you can't use it in the battle phase because it's during the main phase, but the Voiceless Voice deck has a lot of inbuilt tools that you can use. I've put out the Bestials because the Bestials aren't that great in the current format. You can keep in the Bestial Magnemute, but don't have to, and put in Ghost Ogres and Snow Rabbits. Voiceless Voice at a very good position, but as I already said, Ritual Beast you could also mention here. Then again, I think Voiceless Voice is a bit better. Ritual Beast unfortunately can't really profit from the Dimensional Shifter. I will talk about this when we come to Tenpai Dragon. Spoiler alert, it's also on the list. And the Dimension Shifter, as with Tenpai Dragon, a lot of Tenpai Dragon running around Dimension Shifter isn't that great, but yeah, my number 5 here, Voiceless Voice for this month. People might be a bit surprised by number 4. It is Fire King Snackers, the deck that has been at number 1 for the last few months in my list. We have the Poplar at 1 now. Do not forget to decraft. We have Kirin at 2. Do not forget to decraft. I have always played 2 Kirin only, and I think this was always correct, honestly. You don't really want to brick on your Kirin. It's very nice dodging imperms and stuff, but bricking with this is a big problem, especially because you already have a lot of bricks that you do not want to draw. Normally Garunix, then again Garunix is not that hard of a brick, but the Flamebird Dragon, the old Garunix, and then Kirin, you don't really want to draw them, your Fire King monsters like Avatar. And what I have done here is I put out the Poplar, which is less consistency, and replaced it with Fire King Courtier Ulcanix, which is then again more consistency. This deck really struggles with consistency right now because we have seen a lot of consistency hits, 1 to 2-1, Bunfoy to 2, the Ash to 1, the Poplar to 1, so I think running triple Courtier Ulcanix is quite nice. Also running triple Diabellstar just to account for the consistency, I have replaced the Bestials from the format before with Ghost Ogres. I think this deck is really strong, still very strong, but definitely weaker than the other 3 decks I will show you next. It still has a very strong going first board, still has the strong going second option. One very cool thing against Tenpai, especially against the board breaker variant, is the fact that a lot of your interruptions are in your graveyard, for example the Garunix as well as the Promethean Princess, which means that with board breakers they can't really be touched. So for example, if your opponent goes Forbidden Droplet, they can obviously go Forbidden Droplet, but there will be more on the board after the droplet that is at that point in the graveyard. So the interruptions that you have against Tenpai are actually quite nice. I'm measuring everything against Tenpai because I'm expecting this, or I've already seen this to be the deck that most people play, and I think this will not change this month. Maybe next one. I don't think we will see any hits to Tenpai on this month's end of the month ban list, but yeah, Viking Snake Eyes still very strong and my personal number 4. As with the lists before, I would have placed Yuil behind Viking Snake Eyes. Wouldn't it be for the fact that the Yuil engine plays even better into Tenpai because of your Nightmare Pain and the way how your Yuils on field work? So firstly, we have 2 Opening of the Spirit Gates instead of 3. Some people say that isn't a big hit, but I think it is. Opening of the Spirit Gates is somehow one of the best cards in the entire deck besides Nightmare Throne, because if you get stuck with your Spirit of Yuil or your Samsara Lotus in the hand and you don't have any normal summons left, you can use your Opening of the Spirit Gate to discard these cards and resummon them, which is extremely strong, turning your Brick Spirit of Yuils in the hand to like plays. And then we have Phantom of Yuil to 2. Do not forget to discraft if you had 3. This definitely does not hurt the going first action of Yuil, as you are only using 2 anyways, but in a grind game this is definitely something you will experience in a negative way. Having a 3 Phantom of Yuil is definitely better than 2, but it's okay. The hits for this deck were pretty light, I would say. We will see stronger hits in the future, I guess. Maybe the Throne or something, maybe the Samsara, making it less consistent, but you could also see Phantom going to 1, which is way more of a hit than Phantom going to 2, obviously. So why is this so good into Tenpai? So obviously it struggles into Dimension Shifter, as does Viking Snake Eye, but I think that a lot of Tenpai decks will drop Dimension Shifter because Dimension Shifter isn't that great into the Tenpai mirror, and you will play a lot of Tenpai mirrors. So what is going on here? The cool thing is that it's very hard for your Tenpai opponent to get rid of the Yuils, right? So if, for example, you can end up with a Phantom of Yuil and a Yuil on your end board, which is not that hard, and you have the Nightmare Pain, your Tenpai opponent must attack into these monsters, and they can't be destroyed by battle. And if they destroy them by card effect, so what the Tenpai player normally wants to do is destroy problematic cards with cards like the Kyu Belt, which just says that you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it if this card is synchro summoned. But the problem obviously is if I destroy your Spirit of Yuil or your Yuil, then you just summon Yuil Terra Incarnate or the original Yuil if I destroy the Spirit of Yuil. So they basically replace themselves. Obviously the Tenpai deck has something in the extra deck that accounts for this, namely the Samurai Destroyer. If you are not aware of this card, it's just a level 7 that they can make. If this card battles an opponent's monster, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. Also, that opponent's monster's effects are negated during the battle phase only, which means it can just kill these monsters because they are no longer battle protected, Phantom or Spirit. So normally they will probably attack the Phantom, and you cannot activate these trigger effects that resummon something. But the thing is, if you can establish more than 1 Yuil, so let's say the Yuil and the Phantom of Yuil, your opponent can only attack into 1 of them with your Samurai Destroyer, and also the Tenpai opponent doesn't really want to make a Samurai Destroyer, right? So you're forcing like unoptimal plays, which definitely will cost the Tenpai opponent damage that he can deal to you. So the normal Yuil end board is definitely something that Tenpai can have a hard time playing into. I think that not a lot of people will be on board breakers because it's just worse in the mirror match, and board breakers might solve this problem, but as already said, not a lot of people are on board breakers, and board breakers also destroy, which means you can still resummon more Yuils and then they are still in the same bad position. So I think Yuil is quite well positioned here. I've put out the Bestials for Ghost Ogres, did that basically in every deck. You can play a lot of hand traps, the engine still works, so Yuil is still a very strong deck and my number 3 pick. And for the number 2, I have an old reliable one. This might be a bit throwing the ball out of the park pick here, so a bit unorthodox, but I have my Tenpai kill labyrinth list, and as you can see, we are running maximum dimensional barrier access. We have the lady labyrinth that you can use to get to your dimension barrier, so you could also just play this at 1 if you wanted, because you can just find it with the lady. You can also just play this at 2 and just play your trap tricks. For activation of trap trick you would only need 2, but I like to run it 3 times. Tenpai opponent will let you go first most of the time, and if you have access to a dimensional barrier, this is just a turn skip for them. Obviously they have the kill combo with the link monsters, but you then still have more traps, so for example the Daruma Karma Cannon that you can flip. And just to note here, it's very difficult for Tenpai to establish 4 bodies on the board. They would need to have a very specific hand in order to even be able to do so, and there are multiple points at which you can interrupt them, so it's really not easy. And you also do not really put fire monsters in the graveyard. Actually, you do not put fire monsters in the graveyard at all, only darks and earths, so they are not able to use the heater to generate an additional bonus body, which means they need to get to 4 bodies. This is every Tenpai monster, only some specific hands can even do it, so you don't really have to worry about the link kill option. You can just stop your opponent with dimensional barrier, set it with trap trick, find it with the lady labyrinth, pretty easy, reset it with the lovely every turn. I think if you have skipped your opponent's turn once and can establish lovely, then you have him in a loop where you can always dimensional barrier lock him. We are also playing Arias just to have more access to potentially activating stuff from our hand. You can obviously play this a bit different, and one card I don't especially like is the Labyrinth, because it's continuous, and some Tenpai lists are running the high impactful board breakers like Lightning Storm and Duster. So I think if you want to play Labyrinth, go ahead and do not play any like skill drains or continuous traps, because they will most likely be destroyed at some point, maybe from a Black Rose Dragon also. Go play traps that you can activate, that you can generate advantage with. You're also playing the transaction rollback. You could bump this up to 3 if you wanted to, if the dimensional barrier is in the graveyard and we don't have access to our lovely Labyrinth for some reason. Then we can also use this one to reapply dimensional barrier. You just have to protect your lovely. This has always been the most important card in a grind game, and then you can definitely grind out the Tenpai opponent. He will let you go first, very strong for you, and I think if you do understand how to play Labyrinth, if you're good with this deck, if you don't know, there's a combo guide linked in the top right corner that you can go check out, but Labyrinth definitely a sleeper pick and my number 2 pick for this season. And obviously there's only one deck left that could be at number 1, a Tenpai, or also called Tenpai Madness. I'm on a hand trap heavier build. I have 4 high impactful board breakers here. The reason why I am on the hand trap build is that you are facing a lot of mirror matches. A lot of people are playing Tenpai, and obviously they want you to go first, so they let you go first. And let's imagine a going first turn where you have a Pydra, which gives you access to your end board play, the Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. And let's say, I mean, this is a bit extreme, I'm aware, let's say I'm drawing Raigeki, Duster, and 2 Lightning Storms. So any board breakers, basically. The problem with the board breakers, you could also put in Dark Holes, Raigeki, stuff like this. The problem is that they are basically dead when your Tenpai opponent lets you go first, and this is the big problem. You could also count the Forbidden Droplet as a board breaker, but this is also a hand trap, sort of a hand trap, because if you draw this going first, you can just set it and make use of it, even though it's obviously a bit vulnerable to a Lightning Storm or a Feather Duster. So I think that you want to run a maximum amount of hand traps, because if your opponent lets you go first and you open some hand traps, then you might be in a very good position to stop your Tenpai opponent and then get your turn back to kill him. So if you, for example, end up on a Heretic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres together with, I don't know, a Ghost Ogre in hand and an Ash Blossom very impactful against Tenpai, then you can use the Ghost Ogre to stop the field spell, and you can use an Ash Blossom to stop Sangan Kaiman, and then you are basically golden depending on what else is on your opponent's hand. But you still have your spheres here, or if you have other hand traps. You can definitely debate Nibiru here. Nibiru is just bad in the Tenpai mirror. I like to have one. You can put him out. I like to have one because running triple max C, you sometimes have the option to draw into the Nibiru, which is a high impactful hand trap that can stop an opponent playing into Nibiru, playing into max C. So this is why I like this, but I can also see putting out the Nibiru because it's just so bad into Tenpai. You will never be able to activate this. Other than that, Tenpai will be the dominating deck for a while. I think you will see it a lot, so be prepared. If you are playing a going first deck, consider putting in dimensional barriers, consider putting putting in Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbits. I'm aware of the fact that you will not always be able to use this, but this is a future investment. If you craft hand traps or any like staples, you will always have access to them. There will always be times at which they are then once again good and you can use them. So I think investing into them, if you have the resources, is quite nice. I'm not playing Dimension Shifters because I think in the Tenpai mirror they are not that great. They are definitely making it hard for you to kill your opponent, and obviously if you Dimension Shifter against the Tenpai player, they also can play under Dimension Shifter, so where's the point? Then I would rather play more hand traps. If there are less Tenpai players on the ladder, I will put in Dimension Shifters once again. This is obviously very strong in general, but I do not think that it is very strong in this situation. A cool situation in where you want to use your Dimension Shifter is when your opponent lets you go first, your Tenpai opponent lets you go first, and then you use Dimension Shifter, because you as a Tenpai player are not really hindered by Dimension Shifter on your first turn because you just want to go into your seals, but your opponent Tenpai player will definitely be very hindered in killing you, even more than if he would have activated a Pot of Prosperity, basically halving all the damage. If he activates both, then it becomes nearly impossible to kill you if you have anything that can interrupt him. But this is why I don't like the Dimension Shifter, right? Let's say you win the coin toss and you make your opponent go first, right? Then you don't really know if he's Tenpai Dragon, because how would you know? And then you shotgun your shifter, right? The problem is that you definitely have not hindered your opponent's first turn Tenpai, because as I already said, you just go Sphere's Pass, but you have hindered yourself immensely. So this is why I don't like the shifter. Yeah, I tried it out, but I didn't really like it and decided to put in more impactful hand traps, or you could also say board breakers, depending on what you want to do, but this is my number one pick. I'm also interested in your opinion. Let me know in the comments what you think. What are your top 5 picks for this month? If you like my content, please consider subscribing, hitting a thumbs up and the notification bell. And if you want to learn how to play Tenpai, I have a Tenpai guide that I have linked in the description below. We will see each other in the next one, guys. Bye.